Good morning.
Good morning.
Welcome to Horizon Unitarian Universalist Church. My name is Steve Daniel. My pronouns are he, him, and I'm serving as your worship associate this morning. I'm joined by our worship leader, Reverend Craig Rosshaven, whose pronouns are he, him. As we prepare for our service this morning, please be sure to check your order of service for important announcements about congregational life. Now let us join our voices in our responsive welcome. You'll find the words projected on the screen behind me. To all who are yearning for community, to all who are just getting started, to all who long to go deeper, to all with tender places needing care, to the ones who have healed and have care to give, for those who are curious and hungry to learn, for those who know that they have something to teach, for the ones who are just beginning to suspect they might nurture others becoming, to the young and the old, the innocent and the jaded, the fresh of mind and the deeply steeped, there is room for each and every one. Wherever you are on your spiritual journey, no matter who you are, the people you love, how you look, what you can or cannot do, you are welcome here, just as you are in this community of care and concern. So we will continue our conversation at coffee hour immediately following the service in the fellowship hall, and you're welcome to come and join us. So I believe we have, I know, at least one announcement. So bring up Lauren Daniel.
This is just a message for our young at heart who are participating in the trunk or treat after church today. For safety reasons, so people who are departing the parking lot can leave. We're going to ask all our kids and parents to gather in the fellowship hall, and then we will go out as one to and I have helpers that will make sure that the coast is clear so that we can have a happy and safe trunk or treat.
Holy and beautiful the custom which brings us together in the presence of the Most High, to face our ideals, to remember our loved ones in absence, to give thanks, to make confession, to offer forgiveness, to be enlightened and to be strengthened. Through this quiet hour breathes the worship of ages, the cathedral music of history. Three unseen guests attend: faith, hope, and love. Let all our hearts prepare them place.
Chalice Lighting this morning is from Brian Keeley. In times of darkness, we stumble toward the tiny flame. In times of cold, we seek the warming flower. In times of repression, we reach for the lamp of truth. In times of loss, we pray for the comforting light. In times of joy, we light a candle of celebration. Spirit of life, as we kindle this light, help us find what we need today. Please join me in saying our affirmation, which is printed on the back of your order of service and also projected on the screen. Love is the doctrine of our church. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, to seek knowledge and freedom, to serve humanity in harmony with the earth. Thus do we covenant together. Page is stuck together, sorry. Okay, I invite you to rise in body or in spirit and join us in singing our opening hymn, number 21 in the gray hymnal, For the Beauty of the Earth.
For our story this morning, I would love to invite the young and the young at heart up front. You could sit on the edge of the stage here, or you could sit on the chairs, because I need a little bit of help with the story this morning. So young and young at heart are invited to come up front. So as you come up front, I wanted to ask you all some questions. So I know today is our trunk or treat, and it's not necessarily a scary day, but we're going to talk about a scary feeling, a scary emotion. The scary emotion is resentment. Do y'all know what resentment is? I bet you feel it, but maybe you don't know what it is. Do you think it's a happy emotion or a negative emotion? Not sure. Could some of our folks in the seats help us? Negative or positive emotion? Resentment. Negative. And can some of the folks in the seats, or maybe the folks sitting here with me, can you talk about maybe what makes up resentment? Like, it's a negative feeling, so what are the parts of it? Do you all know?
Grudge.
Yeah, holding a grudge.
Feeling angry because you feel like you've been treated unfairly.
Yeah, feeling angry because you feel like you're being treated unfairly. And also, sometimes the word bitterness comes in. Oh my goodness, yeah, this is all very scary emotions, don't you think? Yeah. So we're going to read a book together today, and I want you all to tell me afterwards how you think the crayons dealt with their resentment. Do you think they did a good job with Duncan? Okay, so here we go. Our book today is The Day the Crayons Quit. You can see it behind me. One day in class, Duncan went to take his crayons out and found a stack of letters with his name on them. Written in crayon, of course. So the first letter he opened was from red crayon. And I'm only going to read a few of these because, as you know, crayons come in packs of 8, 10, or 64. And so we will be summarizing later. Hey, Duncan, it's me, Red Crayon. We need to talk. You make me work harder than any of your other crayons. All year long, I wear myself out coloring in fire engines, apples, strawberries, and everything else that's red. I even work on holidays. I have to color all the Santas at Christmas and all the hearts at Valentine's Day. I need a rest. Your overworked friend, Red Crayon. Okay, then he opened the letter from Purple Crayon. Dear Duncan, all right, listen. I love that I'm your favorite crayon for grapes, dragons, and wizard hats, but it makes me crazy that so much of my gorgeous color goes outside the lines. If you don't start coloring inside the lines soon, I'm going to completely lose it. Your very neat friend, Purple Crayon. Okay, and I'm going to do one more full letter, and then we'll move on. This is beige crayon, and you can't see the letter. Dear Duncan, I'm tired of being called light brown or dark tan because I am neither. I am beige, and I am proud. I'm also tired of being second place to Mr. Brown Crayon. It's not fair that Brown gets all the bears, ponies, and puppies, while the only thing I get are turkey dinners, and if I'm lucky, and wheat. And let's be honest, when was the last time you saw a kid excited about coloring wheat? Am I right? Your beige friend, Beige Crayon. And so the other crayons went on, and I'm not going to read all the letters, but you're free to check out this book from the library. Gray Crayon says, I feel exhausted from having to color all the big animals like elephants, rhinos, and hippos. I wish you would use me for coloring smaller things to save energy, like baby penguins and pebbles. The White Crayon. White Crayon says they feel invisible because it blends in with the white paper. If it didn't have a face and black edging, you wouldn't even know it was there. It's sad because it never gets noticed or used for drawings other than snow. Black Crayon chimes in. Black is tired of only being used to outline pictures. It wants to be used to color in objects, not just borders. It wishes Duncan would color a beach ball black, or maybe even draw a black rainbow for once. Green Crayon. Green is actually very happy with how it's used and congratulates Duncan on a very successful coloring things green career so far. But Green Crayon feels awkward because yellow and orange are fighting about who's the real color of the sun, and Duncan would help to settle their argument. Yellow Crayon. Yellow insists it is the true color of the sun. Doesn't the yellow sun shining down brilliantly on the yellow field of corn on the Happy Farm page look gorgeous? It's mad that orange is trying to claim the sun title. But orange says, it is the color of the sun. Didn't Duncan just use it to color the sun on the Meet the Zookeeper and on the Monkey Island coloring pages? It refuses to speak to yellow until Duncan decides who's right. Blue Crayon. Blue loves being Duncan's favorite for coloring in oceans, lakes, rivers, raindrops, and rain clouds, but feels worn down and a little stubby from overuse. It can't even see over the lip of the crayon box anymore. It needs a break. Pink says she feels neglected and stereotyped because it seems like Duncan thinks it's a girl color and hasn't even used it once this past year. At least little sister is using it. How about drawing a pink monster or a pink dinosaur for a change? Pink crayon asked to be used more often. And finally, the peach crayon. Peach is embarrassed and upset because Duncan peeled off its wrapper and it's naked. It refuses to leave the crayon box until it gets its wrapper back. So we're going to finish the book now, and you'll see what happens in the end. Well, poor Duncan just wanted to color, and of course he wanted his crayons to be happy, and that gave him an idea. When Duncan showed his teacher his new picture, she gave him an A for coloring, and you'll notice all the suggestions that the crayons made was put into this picture. And an A+ for creativity. So I had a question for you all. What do you think about the way the crayons handled their complaints with Duncan? What do you think? Do you think they did a good job? Sort of. What do you all think? Yeah? Yeah, they did pretty well. Maybe the folks in the seats can say, what did the crayons do right when bringing their complaints to Duncan? Well, let me ask you this. Did they call Duncan names? No. Did they just say they were mad, or did they give lots of details? Yeah, they talked about exactly what the problems were. And they also suggested things that Duncan can do to make their relationship better, don't you think? Like, you need to talk to yellow and orange crayon, really. You know, that kind of thing. And so this is a way we can deal with this scary emotion called resentment. We can clearly communicate with other people about what's bothering us, so that resentment goes away. Well, I know this was a long book, but it was funny, and I really appreciate you being up here and for all of you helping out with the story today. We are going to sing you out to your rooms, and remember, meet me in the fellowship hall, and we'll go out as a group to trunk or treat. Let's go.
May your mind be open to new learning. May your lips bring truth into the world. May your heart know love and your hands do the work of justice as you go your way in peace. As you go your way in peace.
The Reverend Joe Fonrue reminds us, quote, "In our world, many voices are silenced. Many truths remain unspoken because the speaker fears rejection, judgment, or worse. Our financial offerings today help us sustain this congregation as a place where all voices can be heard, where the truth can be spoken without fear, where vulnerability is met with compassion. We give in gratitude for this beloved community and with hope for a world where more voices can speak their truth." Thank you to our members and friends who give and pledge electronically. If you would like to give electronically, you may do so on the Breeze app or online at horizonuu.org/donate. The offering will now be joyfully given and received. Thank you for your generosity.
Far beyond the grasp of hands, or light to meet the eye, past the reaches of the mind, there find the key to nature's harmony in an architecture so entwined. Like the birds whose patterns grace the sky and carry all who join in love expanding, the message of peace will rise in flight, taking the weight of the world plants of trees, who stir before the first breath of wind is yet perceived. Trust in the song becoming one with the dance, and all mysteries can be believed. Songs of lives long past that touch our own are written in the earth ever giving, and now to maintain the harmony gives to us all lives worth living for the oneness of everything.
We now take the time to honor the joys and sorrows of this community, knowing that all are interconnected and that what affects one affects us all. First, we have a sorrow for Reverend Chris Rothbauer. They lost their aunt this past week and have traveled up to Indiana, southern Indiana, for her funeral. She apparently was a very close relative to him, so please keep them in your prayers. And we also have a joy from Sandy Steele, who is a joy to see all emphasize the Horizon members and friends at the No Kings events yesterday. So. And we light an additional candle for all the joys that and sorrows that remain unspoken. Thank you. So please join in a spirit of prayer and meditation in whatever way may feel right. Spirit of life, spirit of love, spirit of hope, spirit of justice, God known by many different names. You have given us a day unique from any other. You have connected us, all of us, with each other and with the world in ways that are largely a mystery to us. You have given us little instruction other than to be present in our own lives, to feel wonder at the creations of the universe, and to love one another. You have put gifts and challenges in our paths, joys and sorrows, strengths and frailties, some of which we have already encountered, and others we have yet to discover. On this unique day, may we receive exactly what it is that we need. Amen. We'll now have a moment for silent meditation or reflection. Blessed be.
For remaining silent when a single voice would have made a difference.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our fears have made us rigid and inaccessible.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time we have struck out in anger without just cause.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For each time that our greed has blinded us to the needs of others.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For the selfishness that sets us apart and alone.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For falling short of the admonitions of the Spirit.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For losing sight of our unity.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
For those, and for so many acts, both evident and subtle, which have fueled the illusion of separateness.
We forgive ourselves and each other. We begin again in love.
Today's reading is from Reinhold Niebuhr. Nothing worth doing is completed in our lifetime. Therefore, we are saved by hope. Nothing true or beautiful or good makes complete sense in any immediate context of history. Therefore, we are saved by faith. Nothing we do, however virtuous, can be accomplished alone. Therefore, we are saved by love. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend and foe as from our own. Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. It is such a delight to be here this morning. I have a long history with this congregation. I moved to North Central Texas in 1991. I served as 18 years as the minister of what was then called First Jefferson Unitarian Universalist Church, now All Peoples. I spoke in your pulpit once before, but not in this location. It was when you were in a strip mall. Though I've been in this building many years since, and I count Dennis Hamilton and Mary Kay as dear friends. It is wonderful to see such a welcoming, beautiful, worshipful congregation, a beacon of hope here in North Central Texas, a sanctuary for all souls. I am so glad you are here. I'm very impressed, too, by your ability to respond to a last-minute change with a strange sermon titled The Spiritual Discipline Against Resentment. And to have the Director of Religious Education come up with a wonderful story. And then our response of reading the sung one, we forgive ourselves, we begin again in love. That was perfect. So it's just lovely. You know, one of the things I was thinking about is this question of resentment. One of the things I'm aware of, I learned about, was 12-step programs. And as you know, in 12-step programs, someone who's an alcoholic, say, never says they're cured of their alcoholism. They only say they're in recovery. Oh, I like to say the thing about my program of spiritual development. I'm always in spiritual recovery. I'm never cured of ills of the Spirit. And one of the ills of the Spirit, one of the ways I tell I'm not in recovery is when I'm driving in Texas here in the traffic. And sometimes I get so annoyed with the other people on the road for how rude and inconsiderate and thoughtless they are. Here? Yeah. And then other times, I just let it go by. And that's how I know I'm in spiritual recovery. When I don't let the actions of others affect my feelings. Let them control me. And in these politically difficult times, and I'm a very seasoned advocate with decades of experience in advocacy, I have lots of reason to be resentful, as you do, I know. One of the things I remember, I worked in a hospital for a while as an orderly, and I would fill out the charts for the patients during my shift. And there was this one nurse who I knew and liked, but she never filled out her charts right. I remember being so resentful of her. And the man who worked with me was kind of amused by my annoyance with her. Just let it go, you know. So we're all prone to resentment. But what I want to do is lighten my load, to not let myself be burdened by actions of others that unnecessarily burden me with this spiritual trap of resentment. And I found, when I first started seminary, this wonderful work by Stanley Hauerwas, a very conservative Christian theologian, so conservative, in fact, I went and met him some years ago at a conference here in North Central Texas, went and introduced myself and told him how much his book had influenced me, and he said, "You're a Unitarian Universalist minister, and you're talking to me?" And he turned on his heel and he walked away. But anyway, I owe him a debt for the insight he gave me, and then later, not typical inspiration for Unitarian Universalist ministers, Reinhold Niebuhr, probably the most important theologian of the 20th century, had this wonderful reflection which went to the heart of Dr. Martin Luther King's activism. A lot of people think that King was influenced mostly by Gandhi, and he was influenced by Gandhi, but he was even more informed by the insights of Reinhold Niebuhr. I want to begin with a sung prayer sung from Chris Williamson's Song of the Soul. Open my eyes that I may see visions of truth thou hast for me. Open my eyes, illumine me, Spirit divine. So what is this spiritual discipline against resentment? First of all, it's inevitable. It's inevitable that we will have ample opportunities to feel resentful. I have felt resentful when friends I thought I could count on turned to be only fair weather friends. I have become resentful when my children have taken my support for granted. I have become resentful when I realize that someone I've attentively and sympathetically listened to becomes quickly bored and inattentive whenever I start to talk about myself. If one is consistently discriminated against because of gender, race, creed, or sexual orientation, it's easy to become resentful. If I were black, I would be stopped more often by the police simply because of my race. If I were a woman, I would be interrupted more often by men. Yes, yes, yes. If I were gay, I would not be able to hold hands with my loved one in public without some measure of fear or apprehension. There are indeed many opportunities to become resentful, but it is dangerous. Resentment can poison one's soul and sour one's outlook. Too much resentment can make us bitter. It can imprison us behind barriers of rage and cynicism. It can also make us despair. A case study in resentment and its fruits was the trial of Slobodan Milosevic, the former prime minister of Serbia, for war crimes. His defense was that he and his people were the victims of atrocity committed centuries ago, and they were victims of atrocities committed centuries ago. It's tempting to dismiss this just as an excuse on his part, a cynical strategy, but it likely wasn't. It was heartfelt. Milosevic and his fellow Serbs had long justified their aggression as retaliation for wounds that they had suffered. It's impossible to understand that conflict and similar ones without recognizing how all sides nursed their resentments in bitter self-righteousness. Think of Israel and Palestine today. Self-righteousness is the soil in which resentment flourishes. When I am treated unfairly, as we all are, it's tempting to nurse my grievances, to hold them close, to number my injuries, to count them. The problem is I have inevitably treated others unfairly too. The only way out of this endless cycle of resentment and aggression is to realize that we have all wounded others, just as we have all been wounded by others. The best we can hope for is not tolerance then, but forgiveness. We can hope our neighbors will forgive us for the injustices they've suffered at our hands. I hope my wife will forgive me for the injustices she suffered at my hands, and that we will forgive them in turn for the injustices we've suffered at theirs. Why this matters? This discipline is not only vital for personal spiritual health, it's essential for the common good. Reinhold Niebuhr, as I said, one of the most important theologians of the 20th century, believed that practicing the spiritual discipline against resentment is what allows us to break what he calls the, quote, endless cycle of injustice. The Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. built his nonviolent strategy for civil rights on this insight. According to Niebuhr, quote, it is only when we recognize that the evil in the foe is also in the self that we can break the cycle of injustice. And the discovery of elements of common human frailty in the foe creates attitudes which transcend social conflict and thus mitigate its cruelties. So what is the discipline? The spiritual discipline against resentment is to recognize that my opponent and myself then I share common human frailties. The basis of human community is the recognition and acceptance of these frailties. It is inevitable that I will at times put my own interests ahead of yours. It is inevitable that I will love my family more than yours. It is inevitable that I will at times put the interests of my particular group, whether it's my religion or my community or my nation, ahead of others. That is the human condition. This is not to condone selfishness or nationalism. To recognize my tendencies is not to excuse them. It is to know what I must resist. It's to identify what I must resist. The first step in the discipline is to recognize that I too am prone to take unfair advantage, to put my interests first, to be self-centered, to be a fair-weather friend, to listen with more sympathy to those who are more like me. Only when we see that our opponents share our same human frailties, can we come together on honest, realistic ground. A realistic view of conflict. When religious and political liberals analyze conflict, they often imagine there is a natural harmony of interest that only ignorance or poor communication prevents. But there is no natural harmony of interests. Human beings cannot completely overcome self-interest. We can imagine it, but that doesn't make it so, doesn't make it possible. If we imagine that moral perfection is achievable, or even worse, that we've achieved it, we fall into the deadly trap of moral superiority. And that conceit inevitably breeds resentment. Once I believe I've overcome my selfishness, I can't help but resent those who, in my estimation, have not. Jesus warned of this when he asked, "Why do you notice the speck in your neighbor's eyes, but fail to notice the log in your own?" Niebuhr put it this way: no virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our foe or friend as from our own. Let me repeat that. That's such an important phrase, such an insight. It's kind of hard to unpack, I think. No virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. The only solid basis for unity is a shared awareness of human frailty, recognition that all of us, individually and collectively, will sometimes succumb to selfishness. Only then will we be ready to ask forgiveness and to grant it. Although I disagree with the Christian doctrine of original sin, I recognize the wisdom in Christianity's practice of confession. To admit one's failing is not to wallow in shame, but to clear the heart by acknowledging our inevitable imperfections. Confession then becomes not an admission of inherited sin, but the first step in the discipline against spiritual resentment. To acknowledge my failings is to admit my inevitable imperfections, and that is the first step in the discipline against resentment. Letting go of moral superiority. Those who have suffered great injustices may feel justified in resentment, such as Slobodan Milosevic and his fellow Serbs who did suffer great injustices centuries ago. To escape being caught in resentment, they must, to heal, let go of the claim of moral superiority on which resentment depends. By recognizing our shared humanity, by renouncing the conceit that we are morally superior, we free ourselves from the burden of bitterness. And when we renounce moral superiority for ourselves, we also undermine our opponent's claim to it. If I can't be certain I'm right, perhaps they might wonder how they can be too. This humbles both sides and makes cruelty harder to justify. The goal, resolve conflict without cruelty. Conflict is inevitable. There is no perfect harmony of interest. No matter how rational or well-intentioned we are, we will not escape conflict. The best we can hope for is to resolve conflict without cruelty. Niebuhr wrote that all we can realistically hope for is to create attitudes which transcend social conflict and thus mitigate its cruelties. That sounds so modest, doesn't it? Mitigate. Make it less so. But given the scale of human cruelty, which is absolutely astounding, such a goal, if realized, would be monumental. As Unitarian Universalists, we pride ourselves in our tolerance. But the spiritual discipline against resentment calls for more than tolerance. It calls for forgiveness. I don't tolerate my moral failings. I don't tolerate the failings of others. I don't expect others to tolerate mine. I don't expect you to tolerate my moral failings. Tolerance is not enough. My goal is to be prepared to forgive myself and to forgive you in spite of our failings. Let us seek not to tolerate one another, but to forgive one another. As Niebuhr said, no virtuous act is quite as virtuous from the standpoint of our friend or foe as from our own. Therefore, we are saved by the final form of love, which is forgiveness. If acknowledging one's failings is the first step in the discipline against resentment, then forgiving others, their failings, is the second. Moral perfection is impossible, but pretending it is possible makes it too painful to admit one's failings, too tempting to feel superior. Let us instead recognize our common human frailty. Let us admit there will always be a gap between how we act and how we believe we should act. Let us recognize that we will always be tempted and fall short to rationalize our feelings, to deceive ourselves about our intentions, to put ourselves first, or in the Apostle Paul's words, we have left undone those things which we ought to have done, and we have done those things which we ought not to have done. Only then can I admit my mistakes, make amends, and ask for your forgiveness. Only then can I forgive you yours. That is the spiritual discipline against resentment. Forgiveness is not weakness. It is the strength that breaks the chain of resentment. May we each practice that strength in our hearts, in our homes, in this community, and in our world. Let it be so. Amen.
We extinguish this flame, but not our commitment to welcome radically, love boldly, grow spiritually, and serve courageously. This we do because we envision a living community filled with compassion, helping all to thrive in a just world. I invite you to rise in body or spirit and join us in singing our closing hymn, number 1057 in the teal hymnal, Go Lifted Up. Just wander that way.
Go
Go in peace. Live simply, gently, at home in yourselves. Act justly, speak justly. Remember the depth of your own compassion. Forget not your own power in the days of your powerlessness. Do not desire to be wealthier than your peers, and stint not your hand of charity. Practice forbearance. Speak the truth or speak not. Take care of yourselves as bodies, for you are a good gift. Crave peace for all people in the world, beginning with yourselves, and go as you go with the dream of that peace alive in your heart. We take the fire within us and share with others as we go. Amen. Blessed be, and go in peace.